Here's a mystery for you. Why would a candidate who ran for the presidency and won, why would he get elected by proclaiming strongly that he would keep America out of a war? And as soon as he got elected, why would he turn around and do the very opposite? Why would he get America into the same war that he promised to get us out of? That's a mystery. We'll find out why. Let's take a look. During the presidential election of 1916, Woodrow Wilson made his promise to keep America out of the war a centerpiece of his campaign. He was handily elected. Already by early 1917, he was saying something different. He wanted America to get into World War I, but he needed some excuses. Why would he want America to get into the war? He came up with two things. In January 1917, there was a document known as the Zimmermann Telegram, which was a conversation between the German government and the Mexican government plotting against the United States. Also, there was a concept of unrestricted submarine warfare. The Germans were shooting at boats that were in the waters around England, and that would include American boats. So Wilson could say he was getting into the war because the Germans were shooting at American boats and because the Germans were conspiring with the Mexicans. However, these excuses were pretty lame. First of all, the submarine warfare in early 1917 was less harmful to the U.S. than it had been in 1915 when the major sinking of the Lusitania occurred. The Zimmermann telegram revealed nothing new. Germany and Mexico had already been publicly conspiring against the United States. So these were the excuses. And when Woodrow Wilson gave the excuses, then people began to wonder what's the real reason. First of all, he wanted to increase his executive power. Getting into a war would give him the emergency powers. He would use the war as an excuse, saying that drastic things needed to be done and he had to do them. He also wanted to increase his diplomatic influence among the other nations. He wanted to be one of the big boys at the bargaining table when the leaders of various nations around the world got together. Once war was declared in April 1917, he moved quickly to reduce the freedom of speech in the United States and also began to take control of many aspects of the economy. The normal freedoms which Americans had enjoyed, both in terms of expressing their opinions and in terms of being able to buy or sell, suddenly were under Wilson's controlling thumb. The war ends. The shooting stops in November 1918 and 1919. The treaty committee is convened. The negotiations begin at Versailles. Wilson fancied himself to be a visionary and had all kinds of grand ideas. Some of his proposals were accepted by the people at Versailles. Some were rejected. In the end, his influence wasn't that great. The League of Nations, which he hoped would become a major international institution, turned out to be also somewhat lame. It was created, the League of Nations was created in this time frame, but was pretty ineffective. Wilson also seems to have a personal hatred for the Habsburg dynasty. Not quite sure why. This also was a flip-flop in terms of his policy. Previously, he had been willing to distinguish Habsburg Austria as separate from Germany, the Wilhelm dynasty, the Hohenzollern dynasty, and that was seen as the enemy, Germany with its dynasty, and Austria with the Habsburg dynasty. Wilson was originally willing to contemplate even a separate peace, sign a peace treaty with Austria, and then clamp down on Germany. Suddenly, however, he changes pretty quickly and begins to put the pressure on the Habsburgs. Everything he accused the Habsburg of was in fact very similar to his own style of governing. Wilson had been engaged in suppressing freedom of speech and in imposing economic controls, so he was hardly in a position to criticize the Habsburgs. Woodrow Wilson. He ran for president. During his campaign, he proclaimed over and over again he would keep America out of the war. And then he turned around and brought us into the war. Why? Why would he suddenly want to get America into the war? He knew. He even said it. He said, we have no national interest in the war. We're not protecting our own borders. We're not protecting our own people. The reason he wanted America into the war was twofold. There we go. First of all, he knew that getting America into the war would allow him to claim executive power, emergency powers. Remember Palpatine in Star Wars? Emergency powers. Sound familiar? The second reason is that he knew if he got into the war, he would have more influence with other foreign leaders, and he wanted them to like him. He wanted them to follow his lead when he proposed all kinds of amazing plans after the war. He said, I'm going to build a post-war world with my new plans. Nice idea, but the way it turned out, they didn't buy his plans anyway, even though he got into the war. So he didn't really get what he wanted, but he did manage to get America into World War I, sadly, because it cost many lives. Woodrow Wilson, not such a great guy. That's all for now.